What's good? Welcome to an emergency edition of First String Podcast. On today's episode of First String Podcast, we'll have Seawall coming on to break down some of the search and candidates for the president of football operations with us. We'll do a little bit of a review to find out how we wound up with the number 2 pick in the draft. So thank y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all for being patient with us. Y'all ready? Let's go.
Yeah.
First String Podcast. Yeah. True Danny. Dre on the beat. You know. Yeah. What's your favorite squad? Tell me who you going with. First String Podcast. Yeah, we keep it lit. We got the latest updates. We don't pump fake. Like, comment, share. We don't care. Feel free to hate. We got great guests. Join us. You should chime in. Trudini on the intro for the time being. Lady A, representing Washington. Pick Washington, everything Washington. Mo coming out of Dallas, you know the business. Said, them Georgia Bulldogs ain't quitting. Yeah, if you ain't watching sports, you ain't living. About to get my mattress Mac on, about to bet a million. Let's talk about it. We all grown and cool, we can talk about it. Before we hit the news, we gon' talk about it. Oh, you wanna bet? Let's pop a bottle bout. Yeah.
Welcome back to First String Podcast. Do not forget to like and subscribe to First String Podcast. Hit the bell to enable alerts for new content just like this. And as always, tell a friend to tell a friend about First String Podcast. Well, we got everybody here. We're ready to go. Well, not everybody, but we are ready to go. Let's get this emergency live stream going. Lady A, how are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Yourself?
I am here and ready to get questions answered. And we got Aunt Mo coming out of Dallas. How you doing?
That boy Tank said, "It's an emergency." All right, let's go, man. How we doing?
Oh, we good. We good.
Always trying to sing something.
And whenever
what you want me to
need-
do? We're supposed to fan them gifts in the flame.
What?
Whenever we need information, we reach out to Seawall, who's always there to provide it for us. How are you, Candy?
Hi. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we got you loud and clear.
Hello,
We
hello,
got
hello.
you loud and clear. Okay, so we had an emergency live today, and thank you so much for being available to us as always. Let's get right to it. So, on Monday, Ron Rivera was let go, and Josh Harris spoke and said that he had a plan, that he was going to bring in 2 guys to help him throughout their cast a wide net for their president of football operations search. And then on Tuesday, he began conducting interviews at his home in Miami with about 5 or 6 candidates, and he's gotten down to 2, like right away. So we are down to our final 2 candidates to be the president of football operations. Let's start off with the hot name that everyone knows. Out of San Francisco, Peters. What should we know about him?
I think he's from the San Francisco 49ers, right? I think that goes without saying. When I did my list of potential, at the time it was potential GMs, not necessarily the head of football operations, but at any rate, potential head of overseeing football operations and overall talent evaluation, he was absolutely at the top of the list. When you talk about longevity, the last 10 years, the last 5 years, doing a great job in terms of draft and free agency. How can you not want anybody from the San Francisco 49ers front office? That's just point blank, period. They have a very high expectation every year. It just is what it is. There isn't a okay to not be competitive year that they have. And they understand that, hey, performance keeps your job. High performance keeps your job. Low performance does not. Right. And they take it very seriously. They have a lot of depth on that roster, I mean, Brock Purdy was the third string quarterback. Like, let's just go ahead, and they know how to recover. This is a team that we have seen them have questions at quarterback. We have seen situations happen at quarterback. An injury doesn't work out, doesn't matter. The San Francisco 49ers figure it out. And you even forget that they've had a number of quarterbacks in the last few years. Nobody remembers that.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because they continue to progress and still have a high standard of excellence. So he was absolutely number one on my list last week. I said, hey, you got to go. And you have to, I understand the language around patience. And I know that people are saying that, but I also think that is a, what am I trying to say? It's like a cover in case something doesn't work out. I think this ownership group knows that they got a short window. They may not say it out loud, but I think they're well aware they got a short window to turn things around. And they need somebody that understands that in the building immediately.
So then we have Ian. Oh, go ahead, Ant. Go ahead.
No, I what's the guy? What's y'all's offensive coordinator?
Eric Bieniemy.
Enemy.
Only thing I would say, the similarity is success of a franchise. Now we know San Francisco hasn't gotten to a Super Bowl and won it since the 90s, but I would be cautious of the hangover of that effect, assuming that they have a pipeline. Kansas City appears to have a pipeline from top to bottom, except for with the exception of drafting receivers. I wonder, how much of that he plays a big role in the success of what that franchise actually looks like. I think the Trey Lance question is a great one by Don. Not to even say that he may not even pan out one day and actually be a good quarterback somewhere, but I don't know. Maybe it's the strength and conditioning guy. Who knows? But I'm leery about when there starts to be plucking from the tree of what we see to be success.
Right.
You assume it's all good fruit to a certain extent. So I just wonder how that's going to look, long term if you do in fact get him as your president.
I mean, I think, too, what Dump Truck Don says is what I said a moment ago. Who remembers that? I mean, Dump Truck Don does, but from record perspective, you know what I'm saying? I mean, like, let's be for real. From a record perspective, it's all about, hey, listen, some things aren't going to work out. And it depends, and it's how you recover. The San Francisco 49ers have not been in a hole since that happened. Right?
Right.
Who cares? You know what I'm saying? It's like, yes, they traded away several picks to get Trey Lance. And has anybody missed Trey Lance?
No. Who knows? Because you got. But I said, you guys. Who knows? Because they also haven't won. They haven't won. They haven't won ultimately.
They haven't won a Super Bowl championship. But in that time period, they have been a team in the NFC to watch your back on.
Right.
And that's the thing. It's have they still that move, that mistake, that failure in the moment didn't end them for years to come. Right.
That
and
part,
so that's the key. You have to be able to, you gotta hurry up and be able to recover. Okay, we got in a car accident, we made the wrong move on this one, but how are we going to keep playing good football, consistent football, and making the playoffs? And they have. It wasn't like, oh God, you know what I mean? They're done and nobody's heard of them since.
Right.
They don't miss Trey Lance. Yes, they made that move that made a lot of sense at the time, to your point. And who knows, Trey Lance could still become something special at some point in his career. Mm-hmm. But I think in the near term, it didn't injure the San Francisco 49ers as a household name and as an overall organization. We know the Kansas City Chiefs is basically bulldozed everybody in that area, you might as well say, the last couple of years. When we talk draft capital with people you have no idea who they are, as well as free agency. I mean, they have been the pinnacle of success without top draft picks. One of the things that I've been saying on my show is somebody point me to a team that has showed longevity with a top draft pick. Largely these teams that are successful are finding the gems. They are finding the later round picks. They're finding undrafted agents that they're finding the gems. So some of these teams, when I went and said, okay, we got to narrow this down based on the winningest teams, and I can share it with you all. Let me share this with you all because I think it's important for people to know, and I may not even have, I got it right here. I knew it was somewhere nearby. In the last 5 years, do you all know the top 10 winningest teams? Let me tell you. Chiefs, it's the Bills, it's the Ravens, it's the Packers, it's the 49ers, it's the Saints, the Cowboys, the Eagles, the Steelers, and the Seahawks.
Yep, that sounds about right.
So who is winning with a top draft pick?
Right.
It goes back to that quarterback question.
Exactly.
It goes back to that quarterback question.
Exactly.
Yep.
These ain't top draft picks.
Right.
Okay. So
Ain't nobody out here doing the daggone thing in the last 5 years consistently because of a top 1 through 3 pick. Not these teams. These are people you gotta get into the nuts and bolts of. It's more than the first round that's gonna save your team. You have to know how to draft, and you have to know free agents that fit your scheme, not just the sexy names in the market. You got to know what's going to work based on your opponents that year. And these teams, and as much as it pained me to see that the Cowboys were on there, hey, what's real is real. Yeah. They've been able to do very well and keep it consistent with the draft and free agency. Right. It is what it is.
Well, can I tell you my issue with that really quick? If we look at the you said for the past 10 years, off of that list, we have Seattle, we have Kansas City. That's it. Baltimore, I think. Maybe Baltimore. Maybe that was the 11th year. We have 2 teams off of that winningest list that won Super Bowls.
Yeah, but all of those teams have been in the tournament, and you can't
listen, guys. Listen,
only one person can win. Win.
And so my point is, a lot of the winning is smoke and mirrors to me, and this is coming from a Cowboys fan. Okay, we haven't won a Super Bowl in 27 years, and we're talking about them being one of the most winningest. I don't care.
We're talking about ratio.
And you talking.
And in the last, I think that stuff all sounds good. I think sometimes is all I'm saying. I think it's awesome.
You're talking.
Nobody wants a team that doesn't win, but it's like we make the playoffs every year and we get bounced in the divisional. Great.
Yeah, it's only gonna be one. But when you're talking making business moves, you want to be considered. Everybody want to be number one. That goes without saying. Everybody wants to be number one. Every single person wants to be number one. But even you as a Cowboys fan, and again, I said it on my show last week. I said, hey, listen, I'm not opposed to getting somebody, which they did, and interviewed and talked to somebody from the Cowboys front office. It's fair. It's business. The Cowboys have not been hurt. Okay, Zeke gone. Who cares? Amari Cooper didn't work out. Who cares? Nobody. These aren't things you. The challenge that the Commanders have experienced, and maybe a couple other teams as well, but the Cowboys having it's the ability to recover.
Right.
If something didn't work out, so what? You got people in the front office that knows the scheme and knows what's needed and knows who to go and get. Nobody really know who Tony Pollard was. Whoever said they knew who really what CeeDee Lamb was going to do is lying. They trying to lie. Maybe you. But
saw him at Oklahoma consistently. Thought it was no way we would get him.
But he was special. But it's more than just CeeDee Lamb. Actually, what it is.
Yeah, I'm throwing out different names out there to be able to shape.
I got you.
I think what she's really getting at is this: is being eligible to win a Super Bowl. If you don't make the playoffs, if you have that E beside your name for 30 years, right, and then maybe once every 15 years, you're eligible for the playoffs if you get bounced in the first round. That's not really success. That's just called luck. But what the Cowboys have done over the past over the decade is been eligible for it. Now we all know about the Cowboy flu. When you guys get there and you realize it's January and you lose, we understand that part. But sooner or later, you got to
say right and don't say we.
Listen,
just please.
You guys do. Let's talk about Ian Cunningham. What should we know about Ian Cunningham?
Ian Cunningham he's another one who comes from this is the one that I was just like, okay. But he has backgrounds with the Ravens and the Eagles. That's why a lot of people like him. They feel like they've possibly hit with Justin Fields. He's done some good things in terms of trades and getting those picks.
Yeah.
Right? He's been very strategic in that way. I mean, hey, he ended up getting the Commanders to give him Montez Sweat and was able to pay him immediately. And they got a lot of draft cap. They got a lot of capital.
Yeah.
They got a lot of cap space with the Bears. So that is a team that is still looked at as being up and coming. If the Commanders, I don't know what this current regime feels like they have in terms of current roster. I don't know that yet. I'm not, we don't know that yet in terms of what they think in terms of that. But here's somebody who can look at what you currently have and say, let's turn this current capital into more capital. Now with him, my challenge is how long is it going to take for you to turn things around?
Right.
That's the thing. If you have, Ravens, Eagles, I mean, hey, you can't lose either with somebody from the Ravens and the Eagles, truth be told. Eagles in recent years, the Ravens is another team, to your point, and that no, they don't have a lot of Super Bowl rings at all. We know there's another team that does well in the regular season and then disappoints in the playoffs when they get there. But when we talk draft and free agency, they hit.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I love them.
I like Ian as well because he does have roots in the DMV. For those who don't know, I want to say his father was a sports agent whose firm was headquartered in DC. So, and then his father represented some of the big names, and like Michael Jordan, for instance. Like, I mean, I feel like with him personally, I like Ian a little bit more, but nonetheless, I mean, he has a great resume. 15 years.
You can't go wrong. You're not in bad shape with either one of them.
Right, Don.
Right? You're not in bad shape. You have two individuals that can. Here's the reality. I mean, I think it's who's going to hit a home run first. If you had to if you were a betting person, who is going to hit a home run first? Because I could tell Mr. Harris right there in his face. I know it's a rebuild, it's patience, but let's be for real. Y'all spent $6 billion on this.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Okay. You want return on your investment. Now let's also be clear on return on your investment, because I think sometimes when we say that, we think that means butts and seats. Well, hey, listen, guess what? They do have butts and seats.
Yep.
Maybe opposing fans, but they're
opposing fans.
Still money.
But they have butts and seats. They've been selling out, But at the end of the day, and so therefore you're getting butts and seats. But if you spend that kind of money, you spend that kind of money because you want to win. So it's the probability of who's going to get you where you need to be, and that's in the playoffs quickly. Because now here's the challenge with the development story. The Houston Texans. That's your brother.
1 year.
All you need is one example. I tell people this all the time. All you need is one example of somebody else that did it to prove that it can be done.
Right.
I still want to know how Bruce knew that.
Bruce had an
I never saw it. I never ever saw it coming.
None of us did.
And I was gonna say, Seawall, like, I'm being a stickler for other purposes, but it's like, let's be honest, we're talking about professional sports. We're talking about 1% of the world. What's harder than going to a Super Bowl and winning one? Being good consistently over time. When you're talking about people who need to be paid, coordinators being plucked, owners getting wild hairs up their butt to do what they want to do. Yeah, it's not that easy to win. Even if you go to a sport, my Texas Rangers, they went from worst to first like that. To see the pieces, to get a GM out of there, get another guy in, go get two bats, go get a couple. That's not easy to do, but it's possible. Yeah. So being able to pick properly, to me, when I hear it, more than a guy, I'd rather get a guy who, like he says, oh, Ian's got rings. I'd rather get a guy who at least has got the pedigree to go do that, who's done that, even if it's once, versus even if it's saying we've been consistently, that's the home run we're talking about. The home run is the Super Bowl. It's the championship. So it's like, it's not that easy. I wouldn't poo-poo that, but it's just like, I guess when you're the fan for that team, though, it's kind of like, yeah, but when, you know?
I mean, hey, I got to admit, the Cowboys, I know, you know, of course, like I said, everybody wants to win, but I don't think that team, among others, I think people, you know, it's easy when people are Commanders fans and they want to talk bad about everybody. I've been getting on Commanders fans here recently, though. I'm like, we don't understand that. We a lot of times the whole entire culture needs to change. Just not the team, just not the media, just not the general public, also the fans. I said, let this be the last year that you are happy about a top 3 pick. Let it be the last year.
Right.
The last year. Because your Cowboys don't care nothing about no top 3 pick. Where? Since when? When was the last time? Teams that are consistently competing and winning care not at all about a top 3 pick because they're still playing right now.
Right.
That's trying to figure out.
That's my argument to John.
You know, that's what they got other aspirations right now. And while they are planning and teams are planning for like what, Senior Bowl, Combine, that's really not top of mind when you are preparing for playoff games. And people don't like it when I say it, but that is being business minded. That is being very objective. And that has been part of the problem in this area. You want to know why Dan Snyder didn't do anything? Because he didn't have to. Because when you got a high pick, everybody was happy with it. No, that's the problem. Okay, you make the playoffs sparingly, right? And you're happy. You get a good draft position, you're happy, which is more than the times you made the playoffs. So what change does he have to make? Because either way, you come into the game, you buy season tickets, and you're still going to root, and you're going to be happy about something. So he felt like he accomplished whatever it was he needed to accomplish. He doesn't see his tenure as a failure at all, because it was still people who were happy about things that on the grand scheme of a winner don't matter. You think the Kansas City Chiefs care about a top 3 pick?
Right. No. So with that being said, let's ask this question here. So Mr. Harris also said be patient, but he wants to drive the timeline on this. And I believe that they're doing it the correct way by looking for a president of football operations first. Mm-hmm. They went from 5 to 2 now. So when should we expect for them to announce who the new president of football operations or head of football operations, whatever they're going to call them, will be announced?
Soon. And here's why I'll tell you this. Here, you want to know a clue? In my game of use your clues, they're interviewing head coaches.
Right. Already.
That part. And they brought the other majority or minority owners down to Florida as well.
Yeah, for sure. They were going to be a part of the process. Mr. Harris did share that with us on Monday, that they were, you know, a couple of his limited partners part of the process. So that was known, right? But what is now also known is that some interviews held virtually for head coach have happened today.
Yep. So
I would think that they know exactly who their person is.
So some of these interviews that happened today, can we get some names?
Yes, and from the Ravens. And you know, Bowie TV does Ravens coverage as well. Yep. So we had that hot off the press. Anthony Weaver and Mike McDonald for certain. Mm-hmm. I know that for sure. Mm-hmm. And that was between myself and my colleague Karita Parks confirmed that because she was actually on site. At the Baltimore facility today. So we know that for sure happened today. And let me do some explaining on that one as well, because they are in a bye week.
Yeah.
They were able to do theirs virtually. Anyone else any head coaching candidates that are playing this weekend, they have to wait 3 days until after their game.
Right.
Right. So that would explain.
Yeah, in-person interviews don't happen until after the divisional round.
So that would explain the Detroit offensive and defensive coordinator now being interviewed, as well as as well as some of the other ones that are still playing right now.
It is right.
Because because only San Fran and Baltimore had the bye week, which would allow them to do those virtual interviews right now.
Right.
It makes sense.
You got to also keep in mind they can't even sign a contract until their season is over. Like this ain't no college situation where you're still playing and you can go to another team or announce it. That you can't do any of that until it's over. So
I have
a winning team. You're gonna have to wait.
And other like notes of just timelines. You all know Senior Bowl is the end of this week. End of this month. It's the end of January, beginning of February. So what is that? January 27th. It starts at Sunday through Saturday. The game is at Saturday. So there's going to need to be preparations being made. Is there a possibility, of course, that a potential head coach is not, they still got to, to Lady A's point, right? You can't sign anything, but you definitely need your heads around.
That would explain also why they didn't blow out the whole staff, correct?
Oh, yeah, right. Exactly right. That's another point. That is a very, very important point, because a lot of people are like, well, what's going on with Coach Bieniemy, the other coaches? They just can't uproot the staff just like that. I mean, the timing is what it is. And here's the other thing that I want to encourage folks to remember and be reminded of as well. There are some coaches in the NFL right now that once upon a time were a part of bad Washington teams, and everybody was saying, get them all out of here. And now they're off to being very successful in their endeavors, right?
Yep.
Or there were some diamonds and hidden gems in the rough that people didn't even know were there. I would think it is in this organization's best interest to do a for sure evaluation of who they have in-house, to see who they need to keep and who they can send on their way, right? It is definitely a uncertain time for them. They really don't know. They don't know. They do not know who's staying and who's going. So, meaning the coaches, they do not know. But they will be evaluated accordingly. And I would just, before everybody says, get them all out of here. Yeah, we said the same thing about Kyle Shanahan and Matt LaFleur.
You would say his name again? Say his name again.
Matt LaFleur. Matt LaFleur. That's
Matt LaFleur.
So I never got to ask.
Mike McDaniel. He was here. Issues. He had a few challenges when he was here.
He absolutely wanted Santana Moss to come down to Florida and be his wide receiver coach.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that? Because he said he respected 8 to the 9 with everything, and he wanted him to come down and.
They let Kevin. Yeah. That was the just past regime. They let Kevin O'Connell go. So.
Yeah.
They had too much talent to come through here to just let everybody just go like that.
I hadn't been around, so I didn't get to ask you, what is your overall thoughts on Eric, and what is the ultimate? I mean, is chicken or egg? Was he just another part of the, being a part of a poorly run franchise? What do you see overall?
Here's my opinion in terms of just Eric Bieniemy. I think he's amazing. I love talking to Coach. I love being around Coach. His energy is exactly what the team needs. It's you coming from Coach Bieniemy. This is the first year in a decade he has not been in the postseason.
Yep.
You go from a Super Bowl champion just last year to not even making the postseason in 4 games. It's got to be difficult.
Yep.
Right. And I saw, I've seen a lot of bashing of Coach Bieniemy, and it's really hard for me to see those things, because he has the right attitude. He's demanding excellence. He's demanding attention to detail. Game day, it just never resonated. I would be sitting there in shock, like, what is this? Like, what is happening? So culturally, the way he is because of those 10 consecutive years of being in the postseason.
Right.
He knows what it takes.
What it takes to have that in season longevity to get there and go far, and to, again, your point, and resulting in Super Bowl rings. It's like an insult. I done came off a Super Bowl and had to come and now deal with this. And I don't know, this is me talking about that. That's not what he said. But I mean, it's like in my head, I'm like, geez, this has got to be rough to deal with such a shift in the down slope, right? I don't know if he stays or if he goes. But what I do believe is this. I think I may have mentioned, I know I shared on my show, I may have shared with you all about the good cop, bad cop thing.
Yeah.
Okay, Coach Rivera's good cop, Coach Bieniemy's bad cop. I think what may have happened is that those two cultures may have clashed, but maybe there was a lack of communication on why Coach Bieniemy was even there, right? They need the right attitude. The attitude needs to shift. They need to be ready for NFL game day.
Right.
And this is why I would encourage Commanders fans, watch other teams play. Watch the level of intensity they come in with. Watch the creativity. Watch the execution. These guys, I mean, the Commanders were pretty bad this year, y'all. This was some bad football we watched.
Indeed.
You literally have to go to other stadiums to see them with their energy up. Now, y'all know I'm trying to see all 32. So I've been to other stadiums, and you see the teams come out on the field, and the energy that they come out with, the belief that those players come out with is different than when you watch the Commanders. It literally is different. Let's get into this real fast, because this was supposed to have been 20 minutes, but we approaching 30, 35 real quick. The president or head of football operations, whatever we're going to call him, do you think that title is going to change? And it can't, because right now we have Marty sitting as the GM, and we can't hire a GM until we have a vacancy. So do you think that title is going to change once we identify who we have, or will they then hire a GM?
Yeah, they're going to hire. I mean, everyone's going through evaluation. The whole football operations staff and coaches. So Martin Mayhew, Marty Hurney, they will be evaluated. You know, and then it will remain to be seen what happens to the structure. To your question, right? Do they change it to something else? Do they not have a GM? Do they have a GM? Do they keep Martin and or Marty? Do they bring in someone else? But everybody will be evaluated.
Now, you got back. Let me get in here, Ant. You was talking about the coaching staff just a little while ago, and how we have some diamonds in the rough that have gotten away, and how they're all going to be evaluated. The one area where there is no salary cap is the coaching staff. And if you look at Ron Rivera's coaching staff, there was nobody on there with the potential of being a head coach other than Eric Bieniemy and Jack Del Rio, who had previously been a head coach, but no one was knocking down his door for another interview. With these two candidates that we have here, you can see that they start to put people in place and groom them, this coordinator, whatever like that. How much of their staff, how long we have to wait before they have their people in place, their scouts and things like that? Because of course you got to, Rob, go back to your old staff, and you had people in place as well to bring them along, and you got to promote them because you can't put them in a lateral position. So how long before that front office position is filled and they fill out there, so then they can go attack their coaching staff and let their coaches do their thing?
I think it's going to be very quick, all of it, right? I mean, and going back to that, with who can join based on if they are playing in, the Super Bowl, or, got, some AFC, NFC championships that they got to play in because of the Senior Bowl.
Right.
Much of their staff needs to be in place because a lot of that evaluation and let's also be clear, a lot of the evaluation and scouting has been done, right?
Just not seeing them in person, talking to them.
Season. Exactly.
Right.
So then it becomes what are you doing with the information that you already have, based on, okay, we can do something with this, or we might want to go a different direction, right? Based on who you want to see coming up in the Senior Bowl. And then, of course, by March and Combine, you set anyway. Your staff is already in place. But I would bet within the next week here. Yeah, it's going to be rapid movement. I mean, and that's what Mr. Harris said. It was going to be rapid but thorough. So for sure, before January 27th, we should know a lot more about who's on this staff and who's not.
So I do have a question. So aside from the two coaches that have been interviewed, they've released a list of, interview requests. Out of that list, who are favorites of yours?
Oh yeah, so we came up with the list. We came up with the list on Bowie TV. We had Frank Smith was on the list. Ben Johnson was on the list. In fairness, Eric Bieniemy was on the list. Eric Bieniemy is on the list. And let me go back because I done forgot. Hold on. Because see, I was all in love with my GM list. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. Oh, Mike McDonald, the Academy. Mike McDonald,
Ravens,
Frank Smith, Ben Johnson, Eric Bieniemy. We thought it was only fair and only right that he had an opportunity to at least interview for the job.
Right.
Don't know if that will happen, of course, right? But we did have him as kind of like an honorable mention. But it was Mike McDonald, Ben Johnson, and Frank Smith.
So how do you think that will work if we have Mike coming on board along with maybe possibly Ian, that Ravens mentality, the winning mentality, I should say? How do you think that would work out?
I mean, I think that'd be great because they both come from the same tree, so to speak. Ian, his background, one of the teams he worked with was with the Ravens.
Right.
And so it goes back to, I always say, well, other teams seem to get this, but it would seem like a challenge here with the Commanders. Everybody knows who you playing next year.
You're right.
Yep. I'm already planning on going to New Orleans next year already.
You may not know the schedule, but you know who you playing.
Yeah.
So you can already prepare and build your team based on your schedule. And you always know your division, right? That's gonna get you far anyway. Winning your division, that's gonna get you far, and then you win some more, right? You should be able to get there, right? But that becomes the plan, and I think it'll work very well because they'll be very focused on who the opponents are for next year and what is needed on this team to beat those opponents, and then of course go further into the postseason, hopefully, of course, barring any injury. As far as I'm concerned, and we saw a lot of this season as well, and I feel like in recent seasons as well, the importance of depth.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Here's what I don't want to hear. Can I be really honest and transparent with y'all about something? You know what I'm tired of hearing? I'm tired of hearing about a quarterback or anybody else that's got to get used to a playbook. I don't want to hear that. You want to know why I don't want to hear that? Because we see it. Right. We see it. Yeah. The Browns went through 4 quarterbacks in one season and still made playoffs.
Right.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, Doc was on the radio going off today. He said Joe Gibbs had one guy that coached the backup quarterbacks on a separate field for 2.5 hours. And he was like, everybody's got to be doing that. No, everybody wasn't doing that. You have unlimited resources when it comes to a coaching staff. So why should Sam have been ignored last year? Why was he not receiving coaching? You know? So I'm 100% with you when it comes to that. My next question for you is this: come on, pick, man. I'm sitting here with the question.
While you wait on that, let me go back. Let me go back. The numbers would indicate that there was a lot of passes being thrown, not a lot of running, which would lead to either the groceries were bad or he wasn't that guy. I don't know where you stand. I mean, I know you say he's a nice guy, but I think sometimes numbers don't tell the story, and then sometimes they tell too much.
Right.
So I do wonder what you say about that. And then the last other thing is, it sounds like what you said earlier is that because everybody, you, Lady A, everybody, getting Ron was a culture thing. Sounds like it absolutely backfired.
Yeah,
It sounds like it did everything but work.
Right.
Because now they can't even take somebody yelling at them who's won Super Bowls in the NFL.
exactly.
I'm done.
It looked like
Not
you answered your own
everybody
question.
not everybody likes to know that they're not as good as they thought they were. I mean, let's just be for real. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, you tell everybody you beautiful and you smart. You know what I mean?
Your daughter, everybody likes you.
You out here getting D minuses, and you don't know how to take that feedback.
Yeah.
I think that's what happened. I think you're exactly right. I've been saying that. I'm like, yo, oh my gosh. I was like, I got to do a case study on this. Locker room culture, everything, just, I mean, perfect, right? It didn't translate to the football field. So, what culture did you want exactly? Because you got a group of great guys.
Yeah.
You got a group of great guys. But if you can't, I mean, didn't the people out there on the field let you know that you weren't that good? Because I was watching.
I did too.
Okay.
I thought the locker room talked. I thought the locker room said when somebody can play and when somebody can't play.
And that becomes going back to good cop, bad cop. Who's telling the truth? You know, okay, if I got the parent that's telling me I'm beautiful, I'm wonderful, and I'm smart, and I can do anything in the world, yeah, you can do all of those things. And yes, you are beautiful, but you got to put in more work. You got to do this, you got to do that. Right? Now we go back to the point about the run game, which is interesting because Coach Bieniemy even made a joke in a press conference that, you know, Andy Reid would actually be proud of him about all the passes he's doing because he used to beg him for all of these, you know, run plays for Jamal Charles. He used to drive Andy Reid crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now he's passing the whole game, you know.
Right.
I don't, and we know that offensive lineman Sam Cosmi shared with us on Monday. Check out that whole scrum with Sam Cosmi on the Bowie TV page because that was very interesting.
Whoa, it made his run.
He said was about the run game.
Yeah.
But that ain't the only thing he said. He said a lot. And so, but one of the things he mentioned was, you know, run the ball more, run the rock more, you know, but he's an old lineman. So he wants to push through. He wants to get down the field. He wants to be aggressive, right? But that's Sam Cosmi.
Right.
And he's pretty good.
Yeah.
The rest of them,
nope.
Yeah.
not so much.
Putting yourself at a disadvantage. Yeah.
Right. But I understand the numbers don't convey that it was that successful at all.
So groceries. You're saying groceries.
You gotta get the draft. You
Going
gotta
into
take
this
care
season,
of the offensive line.
We knew going into the season that the Washington Commanders needed linemen, and that is the least that they focused on in the draft. The offseason, I listened to a few guys say that they got everything they need, and I was sitting up here not trying to sound like a hater because, listen, who cares about top 3 picks? But I guarantee you what you're going to find more than likely is some solid players up there. Yeah. Just some consistent starters in the NFL.
You are supposed to.
Yeah, but we have to believe. What did we say last show? We have to believe that by and large, these scouts know what they're doing. So let them do their job. That's what we agreed upon. So I hear you, but you're gonna make more than you're gonna miss when you're going that high, with the exceptions of quarterback. A lot of these guys you can kind of make shift, but with everybody else, you get a top receiver, you more than likely
he's probably gonna be good. It's the quarterback thing that throws you off.
There we go. That's what I'm saying.
Now I want to go back to the thing with the linemen. I will tell you that was probably one of my biggest. Is everybody all right in here? Because they were very clear and felt very confident in their offensive linemen. I was shocked. You know, I'm talking about going into OTAs and you're thinking about picking up any other old lineman, any other. They were like, no, we found what we got. And
it's the same thing that happened with the linebacker position too.
I was screaming about the offensive line.
So many people would be thinking that Ron was bluffing, and I'm like, no, he's serious.
Because he needed his glass protect.
Thinking they're going to go and get somebody, you know, big name in free agency. I said, oh, no. He means what he says. He is happy with his offensive line. He is happy with his linebacker core. And that is why you did not see him make any changes there, because he was legit happy with his decisions on those folks on the roster.
Yeah.
Well, that's called loyal to a fault. Now, over the last couple of days, we've seen some big name coaches be let go, and we saw a coach with a national championship who hasn't decided if he's moving on to the pros yet. Bill Belichick, Pete Carroll, your guy out of Tennessee, and then we got the Harbaugh brother who just won the national championship. Is there a chance that any of these people land in Washington?
No. Let me stop.
Thank you.
Let me stop.
Thank
I guess,
you so much for
I
saying
guess
that.
there's always a chance, but no, that's not what it is.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for saying
I'm
that.
wrong,
Oh,
my
'cause-
bad, but
That was hilarious.
not Bill
Yeah.
Belichick. I'm not even really sure where that came from. I know we have been told repeatedly, you know, this is
Right.
You know, the interesting thing about that when you were talking about people like have like you go to different stadiums, watch how the teams are, watch how the fire, and it's like one thing I guarantee you is that owner of that team is not going to allow the New England Patriots to go into utter mediocrity like they were slipping into because your coach
Vrabel.
couldn't afford to get with the time.
Yeah.
So
Vrabel being fired is crazy. And then
that shocked me.
But wait, that shouldn't be all, because we're up to 7 NFL coaches right now, and there are some coaches this week that have to win, or their jobs could be on the line. So there could be another round next Monday when it comes to some of these coaches that may wind up being unemployed.
And I hate that. I'm gonna be honest with you. I really dislike that. I think if you make the playoffs, just maybe work some things internally with your players and everything. But it's so hard to make the playoff. You know, I mean, unless you did like what the Chargers did last year with the Jags. I thought he was going to be gone last year.
Yeah.
What was the coach? Brandon Staley. But
Yes.
I thought he was going to be gone last year after the playoffs. But I mean, it's just, yeah. I think that's now 8. I think there's now 8 teams with the Patriots. I think it's 8 now.
Yep, it's 8. It was 7 before. You're absolutely correct.
7 this morning, then with stuff with Bill. It's just too much. It's just too hard. Like you always say, it's too hard to be successful. It really is.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah, they start coming in so fast. I was like, did I miss something? I was like,
No,
man, these
it-
people are getting gone.
Yes.
I wasn't getting
and
no
then-
notifications in the group chat. I was like, man, what's going on?
It was too much. I'm sorry.
And then don't forget what happened in Chicago. He asked pretty much his whole offensive staff to save his job. So he's got to go hire a whole offensive staff. So yeah, so Seawall, we said a 20-minute interview, but we know that went over. We thank you for your time so much. We thank everybody for checking in with us. Please do not forget to give us that good thumbs up. If you're on Facebook, hit that heart emoji for us. It does help us. We really do appreciate everything that we're doing here. Shout out to our folks on Twitter, Instagram, Twitch as well. So don't forget to like and subscribe to First String Podcast. Check out Seawall on Seawall Sports and everywhere you can find her. She's on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, everything like that. We really do appreciate your time so much. We'll be back with you guys on Saturday with Coach Barlow from the DC Defenders, and we'll have our NFL picks for you guys as well. And then we'll see you guys on Tuesday after that. Thank you, Seawall.
You're welcome.
Thank
See y'all.
you.
Say's not
Great
here,
to
but
see
y'all
you
know what?
again.
Shout out to my son, United States Air Force, First String Podcast, the second to none. Come get some, Lady A.
Go Hogs.
Go Hogs. Hail.
Ready for your beats? All right,